I'm joined by Sandra Gannon, founder, Puzzle Revenue, coming to us from Dublin, Ireland. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks, Jason, for having me.
Well, you came highly recommended by Mrs. Khristina Ridge at JMK.
Indeed.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about your background?
My background, basically, I've always wanted to get into the hospitality industry, even as a small child. I grew up in Eastern Europe, in East Germany, and we had one of the few five-star hotels in my hometown. So one day I walked in there with my mom and pointed at reception, and I said, "That's what I want to do." And she goes, "Yeah, not going to happen. East Germany is not as flexible as that." So I said, "Okay, let's see." Luckily, time-wise, it all worked out. The wall came down and I was able to do my apprenticeship in the hospitality industry, focusing on the business side. So I learned everything from pot washing over not trying to put the kitchen on fire, making the beds, checking people in, and counting the money at the end. That was a 3-year practical and study time, and then I moved to England because I wanted to learn English, because again, school didn't learn much, so I decided, okay, I needed another language, hospitality, let's go to England. So that was my first time where I started with the Sheraton group at the time as receptionist, worked my way through around. I've got everything from front office to events, to reservations, to sales. Did a little stint into the Middle East, came back to Heathrow, and then I decided, no, still not enough. So I moved to Ireland, which was supposed to be a year. Met my husband, have 2 children. 19 years later, I'm still here. But the advantage, I guess, was I got back into the Starboard company at the time, as really revenue management evolved from yield stroke reservations into revenue management, what it was just before COVID, I guess, with its ups and downs, learning the ropes, learning systems within a chain, which then I could put into practice in terms of a small Irish group I worked for, the O'Callaghan Hotels. And then I also did a single Irish property, which was a completely new concept to Dublin, which was the Marlin Hotel. So that's kind of the Citizen M style product before, obviously, COVID came and hasn't gone yet. And unfortunately, I was made redundant.
Well, how has, so you've got a long history in hospitality and a long history
about
in revenue
26.
I wouldn't count.
Oh, I do at this stage.
And a history in revenue management. How do you think the pandemic has changed how hotels do revenue management?
I think before the pandemic, it was really the traditional revenue management style. It was the, I'm going to tell sales, I need 20% corporate business, I need 20% group business, I look after the leisure side, off you go and sell. It was the rooms, very much rooms focused side, I think, which obviously through the pandemic, a lot of hotels had to step back and go, okay, how do we survive the next 6 months, the next year, the next couple of years? And I think it's become much more a commercial orientated position. I think revenue management side, generation 1 is done. It's now generation 2. How is generation 2 going to look? Is it still going to be a revenue manager? Is it going to be a commercial manager? Is it going to be a revenue strategist? I think that's time will tell. But I think it's moved a lot from I'm holding my numbers, I'm reporting my numbers, I'm analyzing my numbers, and I'm sharing them, to I need to get everybody in the hotel involved to understand how can we make it happen. It's no longer selling a room. I think it's more selling an experience.
Yeah, and that's pretty exciting. I know this is painful. This has been painful for so many, but any silver lining. Revenue managers are in a very interesting position moving forward.
Absolutely.
Faced with a lot of challenges currently, like one being pricing. It comes up all the time. Like, how do I price? Any thoughts there?
Well, I guess it's still very much the value for money. People still counting their pennies, but it's more, what do I get for my pennies? I don't mind spending maybe 5-10 euros more than the hotel next door, but why do I spend it? So it's getting that message across why you're selling a certain price point. I think a lot of it is also in terms of value adds. What do I get maybe extra or special touch? So I think a lot of hotels had to step back and going, okay, like I've seen an offer this morning which included a yoga and meditation session. You wouldn't have necessarily seen that previously, going, okay, your traditional packages where you 2BB, 1D, which nobody understood what it stood for anyway. So to a relaxation, rejuvenation package. And I think people want to know what they're getting. But also I think it's understanding what does it cost me to sell a room. A lot of hotels, I think certainly the smaller ones, if you ask them, does it cost you 30 euros, 40 euros, 50 euros to actually sell the room? Where's your break even? Where do you start making the money? A lot of hotels won't be able to tell you that because it's just mumbled within a number in the P&L, but nobody stood back and said, okay, how much does it actually physically cost me to have this room open and being able to sell it? Mm-hmm. And I think also it is a little bit of, previously we sold the room first and then F&B and whatever else you have on offer secondary. I think the pandemic certainly showed you almost want to sell your F&B space first, because people want to, like certain lockdown stages, obviously you could only go into the restaurant and eat when you were a resident. So how do I get the people into the restaurant and then sell my room versus getting the people into the room first and then selling my restaurant?
It's a lot of communication that now must happen between the departments.
Absolutely. It's no longer, nothing can work in silos anymore. Nothing can work just on one desk. It is an absolute two-way communication. And it is, forget what happened last year. The good old, oh, we've tried this, it doesn't work. It does always work. It's not going to happen anymore because nobody knows what really is going to work for the next year to 2 years. So it's a lot of testing, trialing, erring, and not being afraid to go, okay, let's try it and throw it out there and test it.
Are you seeing that? Are you seeing hotels trying new things?
I think a lot of, some of the hotels are getting quite creative in terms of their offerings. As I mentioned, like I've seen one this morning with a yoga session, or it is a couple of hotels tried, okay, have your meal up to a certain amount and take the elevator for a price of a taxi kind of concept of going, well, you still probably need a taxi going home, which probably won't be 5-10 euros. So if it's anything about 30-40, and which comes back down to how much does it cost me to sell my room? Do I rather have people in the hotel spending? But it's I think certainly the marketing message around those new offers is absolutely critical. Of, you can create as much as you want, or like try and sell it to the owners as much as you want. If you don't have a strong marketing team behind to bring it into the public domain, you can't do anything.
Right. We got about 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, can you give these hoteliers some advice?
I think
moving through this pandemic.
I think it's really looking at your forecast. Yes, you still need to forecast, and I translate the budget being your roadmap. Your forecast is your GPS. Your GPS changes with the traffic, roadblocks. It kind of gives you an indication. And don't be afraid to test, try, but track what you're doing. Track trends, track what's happening, and convert it into data points to then be able to share with the hotel team.
Okay, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks. Take care.